Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Welcome back to another casuals quick guide to Call of Duty Mobile. For today's video, we'll be covering the FR556. Introduced in Season 1 of 2021, the FR556 is a bullpup assault rifle from Modern Warfare 2019, and is unmistakably based on the French FAMAS. In Call of Duty, there are two schools of thought when it comes to how the FAMAS plays. InfinityWard as a select fire, and Treyarch as a fast-firing automatic rifle. The 50s was a demoralizing decade for France. Eager to prove themselves after World War II, only to be put in place by the world's superpowers. The rise of decolonization, political deadlock, and infighting. The Fourth Republic had failed, and under Charles de Gaulle, the Fifth Republic sought to assert itself more and become self-sufficient. Out of national pride and budget constraints, France stuck to their domestic MAS 4956 over the foreign FAL, but they were still interested in a 7.62x51 NATO rifle. They had previously experimented with various prototype designs and cartridges. The most notable would be the FAMAS Type 62. However, America's adoption of the M16 and an intermediate cartridge made France reconsider. Under Paul Tilly and Giat Industries, the FAMAS as we know it would begin development in 1967. The first prototype would be completed in 71 and moved on to testing. In the meantime, both the FNCAL and HK-33 were considered for temporary stand-ins, but both were turned down in favor of the SG-540 by SIG. In 1978, the FAMAS F1 became one of the first bullpup rifles to be adopted on a large scale, along with the Steyr AUG and SA-80. But because COD Mobile has two FAMASes now, we'll continue this segment when we get to the FFAR-1 next week. Until then, base damage per shot is moderate, killing in 4 shots at first, and because of the most recent balance change, it'll now drop to a 5 and 6 shot kill from afar, leaving you with a base effective range of 33 meters. Unlike its 2019 counterpart, Mobile's FR is fully automatic, and contrary to its description, the fire rate is relatively moderate at 667 rounds per minute. Thus, your time to kill is somewhat slow up close, solid at mid, and average at long. Headshots are 30% extra, the chest is 20% extra, and forearms are 10% extra. You technically can achieve a 3-shot kill with only headshots, but that's not likely. If you land 1 headshot, or only upper body shots, you can potentially extend its 5-shot range. Legs deal 5% less damage, and aren't really an issue. In terms of mobility, the movement speeds are below average for the AR class, and because it's a bullpup, it doesn't have access to a no-stock, but it still has access to a short barrel. The ADS and sprint out times are average though. Base magazine size is the standard 30, but it can only be extended to 39, which means you'll have to reload more often than its fellow ARs. Luckily, reload cancelling is solid. As for accuracy, the bloom on the FR is one of the best, and is relative to that of burst weapons. Its hipfire spread is also the tightest of any non-akimbo automatic. The iron sights are mostly fine, but its recoil is not beginner friendly. The pattern itself is simple, but it has aim shake, which makes spraying unpredictable, and can only be remedied with bullet spread attachments. Although from my experience, there is a point of diminishing returns, and I prefer to burst fire my shots. When the FR556 was added at the start of 2021, it was falsely advertised as a burst weapon. Instead, it turned out to be full auto. This begs the question, why? My theory is that they took the semi-auto / single fire mode and made it full auto, which would explain the similar fire rates between the two. Despite being one of my all-time favorite weapons, looking back on it now, it wasn't a very good weapon. It had a very tight hipfire, but also had one of the slowest sprint out times, which made it not viable up close, especially after SMG mobility was buffed. It had one of the best ADS boom spreads at the time, but it had a very harsh damage drop-off and unstable aim shake. Thus, the FR wasn't particularly good at any range. Compare that to the buffed Kilo 1-for-1 of early 2022, which was easy to use, had a large mag, and the best bloom at the time. and so the FR has undergone a series of escalating buffs since then. Season 3 reduced its vertical recoil and buffed its leg multipliers. Like most of the ARs in Season 5, it received a buff to its bloom and managed to stay near the top. Season 7 buffed its initial damage very slightly and increased its headshot damage. Season 9 buffed its much needed ADS and sprint out times, along with 10% more damage to the forearms. And Season 10 changed its audio. As of the most recent patch notes of Season 5 of 2023, the FR finally has a proper 5-shot range, which could make it a flexible weapon, but its aim shake makes it difficult for beginners. Compared to the also recently buffed M4, the M4 is easier to use, more mobile, and has more ammo. Meanwhile, the FR is a more accurate weapon, not counting its aim shake. Much of what was said about the M4 can also apply to the Kilo 141, but the FR can be made to have a faster sprinting and walking speed. Its fellow buff to bullpup, the BK has more mobility and an unlikely 3-shot potential, but the FR arguably has a better base iron sight, and generally has better body multipliers. I was going to compare its Cold War counterpart the FFAR, but we'll save that for its own video. So what kind of changes would I suggest for the FR? The aim shake. It doesn't have to completely go like the ASM, but reduced like the AGR, which is now considered a top tier weapon. The fact that it's neither a fast firing rifle or a burst weapon makes it a black sheep among Call of Duty FAMASes. We just received the former, so why not the latter? If we take the M16 as a template and reverse the effects of wildfire, then the FR could become a very fast killing weapon. So, it would be appropriate if it had a somewhat longer burst delay. The extended mag is rather small given its drawbacks. It should be 45 at least, especially if we ever get a burst fire mode. In Modern Warfare 2019, it could be extended to 50 or even 60. And lastly, this is more of a nitpick, but it annoys me that it's named FR.556 instead of 5.56. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's quick guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is On, and I'm off.